I'm going to go to Julia right off the bat. She's waving her arms around, getting all excited because we finally got on the air here a little late.
Not so late.
Not so late, but we did get on late. I apologize. It was my fault, certainly not Julia's.
Oh, I'll take blame for it, too.
Well, you can't take blame for it because it's not your fault. We had some breaking news here, and we've got a major one here about Sail GP and the USA Sail GP team that we'll bring to you in a moment. Welcome to show number 665 for Tuesday, the 28th of November. We're past Thanksgiving weekend here in the States, on to December, the very busy month of December with this Jeddah Regatta happening, Julia, this weekend.
Yes.
And then Sail GP happening the weekend after that, and the World Match Racing Tour and the Youth Match Racing Worlds. And then, of course, the big enchilada, the Rolex Sydney to Hobart yacht race. And we'll be doing on our Christmas night, Boxing Day Down Under.
Right.
The race starts, of course, at noon on the 26th down under in Sydney, but we cover it live here at the start at least.
It's more fun.
And it's more fun. We have a nice watch party. We hope you join us. Our Christmas night. It's middle of your Monday. I guess it is a Monday, isn't it? Is Christmas on a Sunday this year? But the middle of your Boxing Day, early morning in Europe, and of course midday down under. So that's coming up. I hope you all can join us for that. I'm your host, Tom Eamon. We are live from Studio B as usual. My co-host, who was waving her arms around, getting all excited because we finally got on the air, Julia Vedekin. And the Fozy are checking in. Hamchik, it says hi from, Julia, I finally turned the heat on here in the Beach Street.
Oh, it's about time.
Well, normally, you keep it warm up there.
Right.
And that insulates us from the, cold. But yeah, we've turned the heat on here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. Paul Hamchik says it's chilly here in San Francisco. It is indeed. John Emmett, good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. He, of course, is in Europe. Fog machine. SF temps are only 5 degrees below normal, but the persistent north breeze makes it feel chillier. Still no real rain in the forecast, just some sprinkles. Everybody talks about the weather, but nobody does anything
about it. No.
Right, Julia?
Right.
Anything about it. Ryman down in Cape Town. Hello, Ted. Hello, Ed Worley. Gordon Smith, good evening from a frosty Denmark. Gordon Smith saying, Jeff Kitson, where it's snowing in Michigan, think spring. Think ahead to spring.
Mm-hmm.
Julia, that's you under restream.io, isn't it? Making that greetings all. Steve Gruber's in Connecticut. Gillingham's Christopher and Jane are in Leamington, England. Pedro, Foiling Sailor, he was also late. No, you didn't miss anything because we were late. Apologies again, as we've been rushing around this morning, dealing with this this news coming up here. We'll give you about Sail GP. We have a good one here. Hi from snowy Michigan. Mark Wharton Reed is saying, Mark, thanks for your input to this show. Rick Bannerell, and here I thought it was my Neanderthalic he's missing an N. Tech skills and couldn't get the show to open. No, it's us. I apologize. It's the first time we've been late for going on the air. You know, we do our clock countdown and all that stuff like the BBC, but not today. Alistair's in Melbourne. We got a great AAAA from him on Friday. Not today. He couldn't quite get it into the show today. John Hanfield is in snowflake-filled Newport. Mary Jude Samansky, have been texting with her. Hello, Mary Jude. Thank you for your inputs from Philadelphia, PA. Julie Aaron, sorry about your football team. Hello, Fozy from Snowy Cleveland. It's snowy up in the Midwest and the northeast of this country, but what the hell? It's almost December.
It's supposed to be snowy.
Excuse me, Jonathan Frank, greetings from Galveston. Oh, Galveston. I don't know, Julie, if you were watching that football game, the Texas or the Houston, whatever they're called.
I did watch that.
Used to be called the Oilers, whatever they're Houston Texans now. And the gentleman, their field goal kicker, attempted a field goal I think it was the last play of the game, or virtually the last play of the game, from 60, some kind of probably record for him or the team. It's not the record for the NFL, but it was a long kick.
I did see a picture of that.
And it was, the guy kicked it, and it was dead down the middle of the goalpost, dead down the middle, and it hit the crossbar right where the goal, where the thing from the ground comes up and attaches. It was short by the length or two of a football. It hit the crossbar, bounced back into the field. No good. And they lost the game. And I sent a text to Jonathan Frank and to Boomer Bland saying, sorry about your football team. I think Jay Frederick probably cheers for the Dallas Cowboys. But I'm wearing yellow because the University of Michigan prevailed over the weekend.
They did.
And it was a very hard-fought game between Ohio State and Michigan. The rivalry in college football, one of the rivalries in sports, at least in this country. Graham Sweeney saying hi from Shetland, where it's also snowy. Jeff Ogle, I'm freezing my unmentionables off in Annapolis, Maryland. Certainly one of the great spiritual hearts of sailing in this country, if not also the world. Spit spills the beans. Now, Jimmy's been very discreet, but we're going to tell you the news. We've got the scoop on that, and they're announcing it formally tomorrow at 8:00 Eastern. Jonathan Frank, Stingray I've talked to Stingray this morning. Mary Longpre's out in warm, beautiful Avalon on Catalina Island, just off of SoCal.
How nice. It
is nice. Andrew McIrvin checking in from Coltish, I think he means. Maybe Coltish as well.
I know. He did say Coltish.
He did. Okay, Chris Bouzaid. Hello, Chris. Okay, Big Tom, who is going to win? That's a good question. We'll discuss that. I think he probably means this preliminary regatta. But Bouzaid, who's a dear friend and long-time friend, probably the best-known yachtsman, aside from maybe Russell Coutts, in New Zealand. He was the first sailor to get named Athlete of the Year, the big, I can't remember the name of the Hallberg Award. What is it, Chris? When he won the one-ton worlds many moons ago. And terrific guy, terrific sailor.
I've missed him. I have.
We got to get him on the show.
Yeah.
Daniel Gruen is on. Joe Holtzman saying hi from another snowy part of this country, at least Colorado. Again, welcome everybody. Show 665. Greg Phillips checking in from the Gold Coast of Australia. We have quite a crowd on here as usual. And we'll start with this day in history. Speaking of New Zealand, I thought you'd like this, Julia. You know what happened on this day in history? 1893. Who among our Fozy?
1893.
Chris Bouzaid says, yeah, it is the Hallberg Award. That was pretty good. I dragged that out of my aging memory. But he says he's still getting better at age 80.
Oh, good.
Bouzaid is just a hoot. He's just a great sailor and a lot of fun. And his family are cool.
I don't know how I've missed him, but I haven't.
Fog Machine talking about the University of Michigan. We'll save that. Gruber's got it. Steve Gruber. The last comment there. Women got to vote. That is the answer to this day in history. It was on this day in 1893 in New Zealand, the progressive country that it is.
It is.
And the suffragette the lead suffragette of the era, Kate Shepherd, early part of the last century, adorns their $10 bill in New Zealand, as well she should. suffragette Kate Shepard on the Kiwi $10 bill. There was going to be one of the hints, but we got such a smart group on here, Julia. Everybody knew what it was. This is one of the political cartoons of the day. Perfect political equality, parliamentary heights, the summit at last. Indeed, I think, Julia, in that election, it was, how do you pronounce that town? Onehunga. Is that Onehunga in New Zealand? I think they elected a female mayor, too, which shocked the hell out of everybody in the same election in 1893, if my political memory is intact from having lived in New Zealand. Stingray says, I thought 1893 was when they discovered the original Canfield. Okay. Stingray makes his cool jokes. But that's what happened in 1893. A couple other items. The electoral bill granting women the franchise, the voting franchise, was given royal assent by the Governor General, Lord Glasgow. On the 19th of September, 1893, women voted for the first time in the election held on 28 November, 1893. And the Maori electorates were held on the 20th. But order of magnitude, it was this time of the year, was specifically this date. Also in 1893, Elizabeth Yates became mayor of, am I pronouncing that right? It's not Onehunga, it's Onehunga, I think. The first time such a post had been held by a woman anywhere in the British Empire. What do you think of that, Julia?
I'm impressed. I think that was before the American women.
Well, it was. The UK was the first, or sorry, the New Zealanders was the first country in the, at least in the kind of the Western world and beyond, that gave the vote to women. So bravo Zulu to them. Montana, Joe Holtzman is saying here, was the first state to give women the right to vote here in the U.S. And this commemorates, again, back to Ms. Shepard, this is a pedestrian signal outside the Parliament houses in Wellington.
Neat.
And, go green. Go on green. So it was on this day in history in 1893, the first country to grant women the vote.
In a national election.
Well, a national election.
Yeah.
New Zealand general election, this day in history, the 28th of November, 1893. Monica Mino is on. Hello, Monica, long time. She of the famous, Clark Chapin will remember, Joe Holtz will remember, the famously good Mino family, I believe, the sailing family from Ohio originally. And she's watching with her husband, Freddie Mino, the son. That's Freddie Jr., or maybe Freddie the third, but Freddie who's more or less my age. I think of him kind of as a 15 or 16-year-old, which is when I met him. And his dad was a super, super duper sailor, as was Freddie, who's watching the show with his wife, Monica. Welcome to all of you. Nice to have you on. Speaking of Fozy, I thought we'd do a little Fozy focus here at the top of the show. Fozy, of course, those of you who are new initiates. Is that the right word, Julia?
Yes, perfect.
Initiates. I mean, I just went to that simple public school. I always like to say, and you, of course, went to Stanford.
Yes.
Friends of Sailing Illustrated, the Fozy, whom we love and adore and appreciate very much. Hail to the victors.
Yay.
They won over the weekend over Ohio State in a packed Michigan stadium. They call it the Big House. It's the largest stadium, college or otherwise, in North America. In fact, one of the largest, I think 3 largest in the world. Michigan won over Ohio State 30-24 in front of 115,000 fans, something like that. It was a well-played game by both sides, terrific effort. And I just want to thank somebody who does not often say nice things about the University of Michigan. Do you know, Julia, whose sock that is?
No, I don't.
I'll give you a clue. He is a USC partisan. He loves the University of Southern California.
Oh, yes.
The Trojans. John. That is John Sangmeister's sock. He is wearing that sock, I suspect, not so much because he says he's cheering, and he did cheer on Saturday for Michigan.
Yeah.
But our Fozy John Sangmeister down in Long Beach said, I'm cheering for Michigan in part because his doctor, he just had his 1-year checkup after his latest hip replacement. Mm-hmm. His doctor's alma mater, the
Oh,
University
that's good. I thought he was
of
going to
Michigan.
say about the UCLA victory.
I don't think he would have said too much about that. Now, this from Alistair, and I said we're going to have an AAAA on Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote on Friday. But as you know, Alistair's the former CEO, chairman of Ronstan, that great fitting company. And he said this is the most creative use of Ronstan stickers. We've all seen those stickers. We all had them on our cars, probably, or our boats, our trailers at one time or another. Alistair Murray, who's just sold the company. He and his mates have sold the company onto a global company, and Bravo Zoo to them. We're going to get him on the show again. We haven't had him on in a while, and have him talk about not only sailing in Australia or Australian sailing, of which he is president.
Yes.
The esteemed president.
He's done a good job of that, too.
He has. He has indeed. Now, I have another FOSI focus in this segment after Sangmeister and Ronstan and Alistair. This is, ostensibly, it is a video from Ineos, from the Ineos Britannia, their America's Cup team, but it's really a paean, it's a sop, it's a nice gesture to one of our FOSI, Andrew Pindar. Have a look.
The America's Cup relies heavily on the logistics aspect of a team coming together and delivering parts all around the world on time, just to get the sort of manufacturing piece under control, not to mention boats, people, containers. You know, it's a huge puzzle. The America's Cup is a very tight program. We've got 3 years from start to finish, and everything comes down to the day. So having something arrive when you expect it to is really important. It's more than a one-man band game now. So we've got our partner with GAC. A critical part of that relationship is having their experience and their knowledge and their support. They have 2 or 3 people supporting us a lot of the time. And then we have people inside the team, both here on site in Spain and in the UK, that tie up each end. So it's a real team effort, just in the logistics piece. At the end of the day, we're a sailing team and we want to be on the water as much as we can. So having things on a ship is really inefficient for us. So there's a lot of planning that goes into the time you don't have your kit and what you can do in that time. You know, we've got guys within the team working with GAC to make sure that we have this, you know, the shortest shipping route possible. But yeah, it's critical that we get the gear there on time, and we have enough setup time there in Jeddah to make sure that we can, you know, get straight into a good sailing session. We sailed right up until the last point that we could, and then it took us sort of 3 days to strip the boat down, load it onto the flat racks, trucks come and collect everything, and took it to a port. Spends a bit of time in port getting clearances, so that at the other end in Saudi Arabia things are as smooth as they can be. A 7 or 8 day shipping time to Saudi Arabia, and then we'll unload in Saudi Arabia, and we're about 70 kilometres outside of Jeddah, and then they'll get trucked into the port down there. And then over about 3 or 4 days, the containers are opened up, set up into a little small mini base that we have operating there, and the guys will reassemble the boat and get it ready for the event.
Oh, nice video honoring Andrew Pindar, GAC, or GAC as a lot of us call it, GAC Pindar. And Gordon Smith saying, bravo, GAC Pindar, this was a great watch and testimonial, great video. Jonathan Frank, the 777 senior captain for United Airlines, saying, kind of makes you miss the Antonov. They have the big one did not survive the war, but the little ones were out and about, so they're still around. But they've flown America's Cup boats around for sure. Stingray says, I love the part where Andrew P. is polishing the foil. Dan Jaspers, who's a senior serious guy in the industry. Whoop, whoop. GAC Pindar, kudos for all they do to support the logistics behind sailing events globally. Totally agree. He is not. That is Andrew P. and GAC Pindar is not sponsoring today's show, but we like to feature our FOSI because Andrew is almost always on here watching, and he contributes a fair bit to the content for these shows, as do many of you. Andrew McIrvin, speaking of contributors, the Secretary General of the Maxi Association, among many other things, he's saying, well done, Andrew P. And Hanfield is saying in Newport, John saying, Andrew and his company is one of the most important people and companies in our great sport. Thank you, Andrew. and he knows what's going on. He did not tell me the news today, although he may have known it. He's pretty well connected. I'm sorry that Jeff Ogle is losing connection. I hope nobody else is. We're looking very solid here at this end. Hope nobody else is having a problem. It's time we had another transport special, Gordon Smith is suggesting. Julia, what do you think of that idea?
I grew up with one called Conrad Whittakin, who who transported yachts all over the world.
Yeah,
especially 60s. I mean, the 6 meters.
It's all a rat race, Graham. Okay. Well, let's, we got a minor technical issue here. There we go. That fixed in a hurry. A sad note on this is Fozzie Focus continuing on our last one for today. A note that I received today from our longtime friend, senior serious contributor to the sport, Betsy Barrett, and her husband has just passed away over the weekend. Dear friends, we write with sad news. Peter Barrett passed away this weekend. Peter was a beloved friend, mentor, husband, father, brother, uncle, and recently step-grandfather, not to mention his acumen as a stock picker, yachtsman, and bird hunter. Above all, he was a consummate gentleman, kind and generous to everyone he met. We already miss him terribly. We wish him fair winds and following seas. That's signed by Betsy Barrett on behalf of the family. And I don't, where is it here? You remember this, Julie, we talked about on the show the other day?
Right.
The Egyptian fruit bat.
Mm-hmm.
This is
from
her and her late husband.
Right.
They send us something every year at the holidays for that. And very sad news. Betsy, sorry to hear that. And to you and your family, our deepest condolences, and may he rest in peace. Okay, Julia, what is today? What is being celebrated today? I'll give you a clue.
All right.
We have Black Friday, the big go to the mall and go shopping at the big box stores and elsewhere. And then we have Cyber Monday, which was yesterday.
Right.
Right? Cyber Monday.
Mm.
But what do we have today?
Taco Tuesday.
You said that as I was trying to get us on the air. Taco Tuesday. Fog Machine's got it. Hi, Jody Shields. He's just waking up down under. What time is it? 8:30 in Sydney. Giving Tuesday. Fog Machine, John Hanfield, and others got it. That is true. It is Giving Tuesday. Speaking of givers, Jeff Glass has just signed on. Longtime Jeff. Jeff has been the head of Larry Ellison's, he's one of his pilots, but he's really heads up Larry's Air Force, last I knew. Happy holidays to everybody from San Jose. Monica Mino saying Tequila Tuesday. Julie, that sounds...
Oh, that's more interesting.
That sounds better than Taco Tuesday. I like Julia's version more, Fog Machine says. Taco Tuesday. Are we giving out tacos? No. We just want to take this opportunity to recognize that our sport, not only Sailing Illustrated, but our sport survives on volunteers and contributions, charitable and otherwise. You started the community sailing centers, the junior programs, and, we could list them all. And I started to make a list this morning and knew I was going to run out of time with this news about Sail GP and wanting to talk about Jeddah.
I think volunteerism is the thing that distinguishes America as a nation. It exists in some places in smaller scales, but it was the way the nation was founded.
True.
And nowhere else.
De Tocqueville.
Yeah.
At all. But I don't think that's true. Having lived in Europe and Australia and New Zealand, I think the spirit of volunteerism, and maybe not quite as strongly charitable as we have in this country, and some of it has to do with tax laws and the fact that we can make charitable tax deductions to what we call 501c3s,
right. And
you can deduct that amount from your gross income, your taxable income. It doesn't reduce your taxes by, well, it can reduce them by a bit.
In Asian and the Latin community, that's all sort of family-based.
Yes, true.
But it happens.
It does happen. And to all of you on this Giving Tuesday, we hope you'll think of particularly your local sailing organizations and others. And how does this happen? What's Giving Tuesday? Where does it come from? Well, it's a global charity event created in 2012 by the UN. They take credit for the United Nations Foundation, but it was really the 92nd Street Y. Those of you who know New York and know that particular YMCA,
Mhm.
or what's now known as the 92nd Street Y, they do a lot of great things for the community, broadly New York, but also for that part of town. And Giving Tuesday challenges people around the world to come together to support a nonprofit organization on this Giving Tuesday, nonprofit of their choice. And the date chosen is not by chance with no fixed date. It always takes place on the Tuesday after two of the biggest consumer moments of the year, Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Do you all celebrate those in your countries? That is Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Is that a thing outside the U.S. and Canada and a few other places? I wonder if Cyber Monday is a big deal. I mean, does Amazon give discounts in Europe, Amazon UK, and so on?
It doesn't really say, it doesn't deny it, for sure.
Clark Chapin making the point, very few people can still itemize deductions now since the tax laws changed in 2018, but that doesn't make Giving Tuesday a bad thing.
Yeah.
Good point, Clark Chapin.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Jody Shields says he's a nonprofit. You can make contributions. You can make contributions
Yes.
to him. You can make contributions too to Sailing Illustrated because we are a non-profit, a not-for-profit. We barely scrimp by here trying to keep our equipment running. And I just paid another, the Restream, which allows us to concurrently stream to more than just Facebook or more than just you. We can concurrently stream. And we use that also for Governor's Cup. I used it for when we live streamed the National Sailing Hall of Fame, so we could stream. And that bill came due yesterday, and it's, it's not a huge sum, but it's a sum. It's a couple $100.
Yeah.
And we appreciate, don't we, Julia?
We do.
All of you making a contribution to us here at Sailing Illustrated. Thanks for your support, and many of you do via Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated, and give us, if you're so inclined, $1 or $2 or $5. Some people give quite a bit more than that per month.
Thank goodness.
For which we are deeply appreciative. That's the big news. Is really the Jeddah Regatta, and I wasn't planning on talking about Sail GP today until a little birdie whispered in my ear this morning, a couple hours before the show, and then I started checking around because you don't want to go with a one hears. At least I don't, and I never have, and it's one of these things, Julia, where I'm willing to bet the farm.
Yeah.
Not that I have ever done that, but I would be willing to bet the farm, maybe not my life. Speaking of whom, Mr. Munger, Charlie Munger, who was the right hand or left, the longtime partner of the Wizard of Omaha, investing guru,
right?
Warren Buffett.
Right.
Charlie Munger just died.
Oh, did he?
I saw that on my feed. Yeah. So he's been a guru, as has Buffett, but that's just breaking news. But we got breaking news about the Sail GP. And we're going to talk more about Jeddah later in the show, and we'll get to that. But that's what we're here to do now. These comments are rolling in here today. It's back on Giving Tuesday. Graham Sweeney, I have to hide my credit cards on Black Friday from the other half. And Stingray saying, Stingette, his partner, thinks that Giving Tuesday is to be celebrated every day. Every day is Tuesday.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Sure.
And Jody says our wives must be related. He's saying this thing, right? Dan Jaspers, if you are thinking of giving today, then please consider donating to California Inclusive Sailing, Newport Beach, which is currently looking to buy 2 new award-winning adaptive sailboats, which they must be RS boats. And of course, Dan's with them. That's great. Good stuff. Which they will use to help sailors with disabilities get afloat and get racing in dedicated regattas for other inclusive sailors, other challenged or handicapped sailors. California Inclusive Sailing, Newport Beach. Terrific. I mean, there are so many organizations, Julia, we can talk about the Colorado Sailing, which is a group I've spoken to before and helped raise money, and you can talk about groups all over the world.
Yes.
And I'm sure that maybe somebody will talk about the terrific charity there at the National Sailing Center the Bart Simpson
Yeah.
sailing charity there. Maybe somebody put a comment in, but again, Sail Newport and on and on and on all over the world. Help out your local junior program, if nothing else. On to Sail GP, Mary Longpree is saying, I am hoping Taylor Canfield gets the helm position for USA team. Harper White. Hello, Harper. If everyone is a book, you are a good book that I want to read. Any interesting stories to share? Uh-oh, Julia, better check her out. Okay, let's get on to Sail GP, and then we'll get to the Jeddah Regatta, whether it's correct or croutonic, and the news about all that. Yes, the news broke 3 days ago, as probably all of you know. Jimmy Spithill, the star skipper, was the headline by the Associated Press, our esteemed friend and Fozy, Bernie Wilson down in San Diego, writing the article and breaking the news as usual. Jimmy Spithill to start an Italian team following his departure from the U.S. Sail GP team was the headline. And Bernie's been very close with Jimmy since our America's Cup days all together with Oracle Team USA. And Jimmy is out. And this is, I think, a bit of a face-saving gesture. I'm going to start an Italian team. I hope he does. There is no Italian team in Sail GP, as you all probably know. But I rather suspect that an Aussie with an American passport, he's got an American mother, right? American mother. But he lives in, he's for all intents and purposes now an American. And I suspect the team will likely be, an Italian team will likely be started by and staffed by largely Italians. But what do I know? We shall see. Mm-hmm. Bernie went on to write in his Associated Press AP article of, I think 3 days ago, star skipper Jimmy Spithill said he plans to start a new Italian team following his departure from the U.S. Sail GP team in Tech Titan, Larry Ellison's Global League. Spithill said he couldn't disclose any specifics about the U.S. team other than a new group is bringing in its own CEO and driver, the role Spithill held since taking over Team USA in Sail GP's second season. It's been known in sailing circles, we discussed it on this show, since late July that a private American group is looking to buy Team USA, which has been owned by the league. An announcement is expected within the next few days. Indeed, that is the case. The announcement, Julia, will be tomorrow at 0800
I'll be sure to,
Eastern Time.
I'll be up.
Well, 0800, you're gonna. I'm going to tell you what the announcement is right now.
Oh, okay.
Now, this is good news. I'm really pleased about that, and thanks again to our esteemed AP writer friend and Fozy Bernie Wilson of San Diego for that story. But it's all about the American Sail GP team, which has been, they just had their best finish in a long time in this most recent regatta. And that article goes on to say, Jimmy's quoted as saying, I tried to do the best job I could with the team, get it up and running at a high level, and to leave it, as he says in the article with Bernie, in good shape. And I think he has done that. Not perfect shape. But bravo Zulu to this news that we now can tell you with virtual certainty, one hears, that it will in fact, and this is not exactly a surprise to some of you, if not all of you. John Sangmeister says yawning. But the skipper, driver, as they like to say in Sail GP, will be Taylor Canfield of the U.S. Virgin Islands and now Miami. And skipper, he will be the skipper. And Mike Buckley, another terrific sailor, will be the CEO. That I can tell you will be announced tomorrow or so, I do believe. Again, this is a one here, it's 95%. I've texted with senior series people in the team this morning, and one of the good pieces of good news pieces, I think, good pieces of news, is that Laura Mumma, who is the PR for the current team, is staying on, and she's quite capable and very good. And she and I had a quick chat this morning. And she neither confirmed nor denied any of this. So she is not a source, but others are, and I've triple sourced this, so I can tell you that here is I think the biggest news. We're no big surprise that Taylor and Mike are involved in leadership roles. But somebody many of you probably have not heard of unless you've been sailing GC32s or J70s. Ryan McKillen, who's currently the CEO of a company called Volley. It's a startup, but he is an ex-Uberite, the Uber cab, the Uber ride-share company. He was one of the founding engineers. He was like employee number, I don't know, 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
And he walked away from that company with some stock, quite a bit of stock, reported. I can't confirm this myself, but it reported to be $800 million, something like that. He's came away with some real coin. Nice guy, young guy, originally from Miami of Ohio. And I think he went to Miami of Ohio, went to that university, and a friend of his recruited him into Uber, said, hey, you should come out here. We're a fellow coder. Mm-hmm. And he ended up out here in San Francisco. And to read the story, Julia, I've done some research. I didn't have time to do my usual cut and paste. We'll do it in future. But he was here at Uber, looking out over the bay, saw the sailboats, and made some calls, including to Robbie Doyle, mm-hmm. and said, I want to, because he saw the boat, and he went to some kind of a sailing school. Mm-hmm. Then somehow cold called Robbie Doyle. Robbie Doyle said, well, come on, sail with me on the, and he ended up sailing the Caribbean 600 on an offshore event.
Wow.
But in the meantime, he and his wife have been campaigning J70s. And Ryan McKillen, who calls Miami Beach now his home, is the lead investor, or so one hears, in this new team.
That's exciting.
I agree, Julia, and I know some of you are not so excited.
But it's all new people.
Exactly. It's new blood.
Yeah.
And he's got some co-investors with him. And I'm not going to go into those names, because one of the things I said I would do is I'm just going to go with these big 3 names and mention Laura, which I've done, and leave the rest for their announcement tomorrow at 0800. And then hopefully we'll get Mike, who's been on the show, Mike Buckley, or Taylor, or mm-hmm. both of them, or maybe Mr. McKillen, whom I don't know, Ryan McKillen, but not many, but several of you probably will know him. See if we can get them on the show next week after Jeddah. In the meantime, here is a video I found on YouTube of Ryan and his wife at the Bacardi Cup in 2021, where they were sailing their J70s and each won a race. How cool is that?
Hi, I am the white boat with the teal people on it.
And I am the white boat with the red people on it.
I'm Ryan McKillen.
And I'm Maggie McKillen.
So we had a husband-wife rivalry born in the J70 fleet here at Bacardi in Miami, and we each took a race win today.
And so yeah, it's my first season sailing, and it felt really good to beat my husband. And it was just a great time out on the water today. So we're looking forward to hopefully more breeze tomorrow.
Okay, do you guys want to give a shout out to your crews?
Absolutely not. It's all in the driving.
Shout out to my entire team, BK, Oren, and Therese. They actually make me 100% what we are, so I can do without them.
At least there's one honest person in this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, congratulations, guys, and hopefully we get more breeze tomorrow, and enjoy your evening.
Thanks. You.
Bye.
How young and cute and nice and enthusiastic.
Refreshing.
And they've just had a kid here, and I think that video is from, I believe, 2021 at the Bacardi Cup, which used to be a star regatta, but now includes several other one-designed fleets. Now, you see here on his shirt, I don't know if you can make it out, but those, again, of you who know him and his sailing team, teal is the color. Jonathan Frank saying, I love the enthusiasm of these kids. And
absolutely,
you know, he brought her into the sport too.
Yeah.
She was not a sailor until recently. And there she goes off winning a regatta. But let me go back to this camera 4. All of his boats have been named Surge. You know why?
Mm-mm.
I think Ryan was a member of St. Francis for a while, Fog Machine. Saying, is that right? Okay, well, that's cool. Maybe he was. And we'll check. We'll look into it more. In fact, we'll try to get him on the show, because it's obviously good, new, young, enthusiastic.
Absolutely. And everybody should bottle her smile. It's perfect.
So, Julia, why is there a boat named Surge, his boat?
I don't know.
Any of the Fozy know? Do any of the Fozy know going once, twice, and thrice?
Mhm.
Okay, think to Uber. I'll give you that much of a clue. Think to Uber. What happens in Uber when
Oh, whatever. Yeah, the surcharges.
surge pricing? You
Yeah.
got it, Julia. Say it again.
In certain hours with high peak demands, they do.
Perfect.
Right.
And no surprise,
Yeah.
David James got it as well. The surge code ? Stingray saying, and yes, one hears after doing a little research this morning. Again, apologize for getting on late today, but I was trying to find more about Ryan McKillen. But he was a founding engineer, and apparently he was the one who came up with the code, and it's a very complicated code, apparently. He came up with the code to do the surge pricing
Mm-hmm.
when the cars are in high demand, as you said. You just
Right.
explained it very well. Jeff Kitson is saying, I never used an Uber. Graham Sweeney in Shetland is up in Scotland. He says, we don't have Ubers up here. Surge pricing. Smith's got it. Yeah, he apparently came up with the code for surge pricing and is most noted for that. But if you're one of the few, here's the handful: 2, 4, 6, 8 people among the very first people in Uber. He is obviously, I assume he's the far right. And Travis, the guy who founded, or as among he was the CEO, really ran the place and got it going. Travis, what's his name, on the second from the left. Yeah. But I just think this is a great story, and it's a great company. And do you think about them having to change the world? I mean, you think of the problems they had here in San Francisco.
Ooh, yes.
Trying to convince the supervisors and the taxi companies and unions to let them go in and do this.
Yeah.
Now,
Couldn't be done.
It couldn't. Yeah, exactly. And then to do it here, and then Portland and Seattle, and tell me where, New York, Paris,
yeah,
and the world.
Yeah.
I mean, Singapore, China. So there is a Showtime movie that's just airing now on Netflix, and I coincidentally watched it all last week, having no idea this gentleman was going to be involved. Ryan McKillen, far right, in the early days, circa 2009, 2010, when this was taken. And here is the trailer for what is it's a series, it's not a movie, it's not a Netflix movie, it's a series of 1-hour shows that I think originally aired on Showtime, but is now up for your viewing pleasure on Netflix. I commend it to you. It's a fascinating series. Here's the trailer.
My name is Travis. I am the founder and CEO of Uber. And contrary to what you might have read, I am not a monster.
The notorious bad boy of tech.
You willing to listen to wise counsel?
I will always listen, but I will never take orders. Is this legal?
The best thing about Travis is that he is willing to run through walls to win. The worst thing about him is he thinks everything is a wall.
If there is something that's gonna kill Uber, then I have to remove it.
You're not the one who has to pay the price.
My life is on the line here.
And all of you don't bleed for it. Are we super pumped?
Super pumped. And living here, we heard the stories. We followed the company. We immediately started using. I did, for one, using Uber. And you have to, as somebody just said, David James quoting the late great Arthur C. Clarke, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
That's a great quote.
And John Emmett remarking that it is a top cast. Yeah, it is. I mean, Uma Thurman and Gordon Levitt. I mean, it's a good watch. Yeah. And I don't know that Ryan McKillen was actually featured as one of, in So Few Words or in was, named as Ryan, because they used the people's names throughout this thing. Bill Gurley, who was the VC that backed them and continued to back them, and Ms. Huffington, who really came in and helped stabilize the place, and then ultimately Travis Kalanick got kicked out. But Julia, as you know my story, when I heard about Uber, this is way before they did advertising. I was here helping to get the 2013 Cup organized, and in circa 2010 or 11, I can't remember which now. And I was sitting at St. Francis at the end of the bar. I had a meeting over at the Balboa Cafe, which is a taxi ride away, and unless you're not lazy, you could walk it in probably 15, 20 minutes, but I'm lazy. And I was late, as usual. So I was about to try to get a taxi, which getting a taxi out, those of you who know San Francisco and St. Francis and the Yacht Club Peninsula, it's almost impossible to get a taxi out there. You call, and finally it comes, and then it's coming out, and there's 3 or 4 other people say, oh, who are you looking for? Oh, I'm looking for Tom. Oh, I'm Tom, and they take your taxi.
Yeah.
You see this happening.
Forever,
Getting
it
a
was
taxi
awful.
at St. Francis Yacht Club used to be impossible. And I was sitting there trying to get the front desk to get me a taxi, and wondering whether I should just walk, when a mutual friend of ours said, have you not heard about Uber? I mean, you're working for Larry Ellison. You're a tech guy. Have you not heard about Uber? I'd not heard about Uber. They'd done no advertising. It was all word of mouth. He said, pull out your phone. Let me show you. Pulled out the phone. I downloaded the Uber app. Click, click, put my credit card in. Click, click. Car's on its way. It's shown on the map. There it is coming out the Yacht Club Peninsula. It comes right to the front of the club. Hop in. 5 minutes later, I'm over at the Balboa Cafe for my lunch meeting. And those were black cars. They were just Lincoln Town cars before Uber had gotten to, all the everyday man and woman cars that they use now, the Uber X's, which are just, Toyota Camrys and so on. But it was a black car. It looked fancy. Really wasn't. It was less expensive than a taxi, as you know.
Yes.
And the car picked me up, took me over, dropped me right off in front of the Balboa Cafe, and sitting inside in the corner in the round table were all my friends. You may have been sitting there too. I don't remember. It was our Monday lunch bunch. And they said, look at that. Eamon's being chauffeured, driven around in a town car now that he's working here for Ellison. We thought he was the common man from the university, the public school in Michigan. So I think this is great news for the sport. It's great news for this team. And I thought that was a nice picture that we grabbed for the team here in San Francisco Bay. I think it's great news for the team. I think Jimmy was very gracious in explaining that he was going to move on to hopefully bigger and better things, or at least different things with an Italian team. And the formal announcement comes tomorrow, I'm told reliably, at 0800 Eastern. And they will put a release out so those of us on the West Coast can wake up and get the news. I'm not going to say any more than that. I have a pretty good idea who the sailing team is, who have been retained from the current American team and not. I know about some of the other investors, but out of respect for the team and for their announcement tomorrow, and Laura and Mike and, all of them, Mr. McKillen and Taylor, for whom I'm especially happy. I think this is great news for Taylor.
Right.
And for American sailors.
Right.
Do you agree, Julia?
Yep.
So bravo Zulu to them all. Bravo Zulu to the Sail GP crowd. I mean, you saw maybe back there when I had his LinkedIn thing, the one common person that on his LinkedIn that showed that I was in common with as not as a friend. What do you call a friend on LinkedIn? Whatever you call that person. One common friend or person we had, common link.
A link.
It was Russell Coates.
Yeah.
So Russell's obviously knows this guy's been working with him to get this announcement ready to go. And again, bravo Zulu to all concerned. It's great news in my not so humble opinion. What are you all saying? From the bottom up, Shetland has ooh-bob, but that's the noise the sheep fanciers make. Stingray, maybe Team USA CJ Perez can help them promote Taco Tuesdays. Andrew McIrvin saying, yeah, they're almost all Priuses here in the UK. That is the Ubers. Well, you can still get the black cars. You can still get the limousines. In fact, Julia, shall I say what we're getting to help you get around? You go ahead and tell us.
Now, they also do a car called Wave, which is
wheelchair accessible van.
Van.
Vehicle.
Yeah.
and they're really, it's inexpensive.
Mm-hmm. Less expensive than the regular price.
And you call, and it's not quite as reliable as calling Uber and expecting a car in 5 or 10 minutes. Always.
No,
here at least
there
where
aren't
we
so
are.
many of them around.
But the WAV, Julie can get in and out of cars pretty well these days. But if we really want to do it reliably and simply, you call, and within 5 or 10 minutes, one of those vans is here. They roll you into the back, strap you in your own little perch there in the back, in your chair, so we don't have to fold the chair up and put it in the back and unfold it and get you in and out, worry about whether there's any problem getting in and out of the sedan. Jeff Kitson asking, does anybody use the driverless taxis? There's a fair bit of that in this Showtime/Netflix show about Travis Kalanick thinking that's the future and the drivers being upset because he's going to go to driverless cars. They've been suspended here. They've been, not all, but most, I think, have been suspended after some accidents, haven't they, here? And
yeah, at least they're on hold for now.
But no, I have not used one, but lots of friends have.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose that's the future as well. Probably going to have AI hosts for video podcasts sooner than later. We won't have to worry about us putting a show together. Some robot will do that all for us.
And the one-on-one delivery system works really well. I once did a study about...
Hang on, the one-on-one service for...
Instead of manufacturing and manning wheeling buses.
Oh, I see. Yep.
Of which get some use, but not a lot. The one-on-one, just plain old taxis, are cheaper, and much better because you don't have to go 500 feet to the bus.
Well, yeah, no, you mean you're talking about the public service for getting on and off a bus with a wheelchair. Oh, that's. But in its time, that was a good feature for metropolitan transit authorities here. Okay, so that's the big news, and I think it is big news. I think it's cool, and we'll see if what else they release tomorrow, and we'll see if we can get Taylor and or Mike and or this gentleman Ryan McKillen on the show sometime soon. John Emmett is up next with the Coach's Corner. Super Fuzzy John Emmett from Great Britain, of course, checking in from, again, back and forth between the family farm. Is that loud enough? Between the family farm and his home in Weymouth.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fosy again here in Weymouth, and doing quite a lot of travelling between the farm and Weymouth as it gets towards the end of the season. So lovely to see you all. I think there's quite a lot of controversial topics going on at the moment, but I really wanted to keep a very coaching focus. Now, sometimes what separates the elite sailors from the top sailors is the ability to focus under pressure and the ability to perform under pressure. In fact, a large section of my job is helping people to perform at those really top level regattas. So it's the Olympic Games, big level competition, and as I say, at the moment we're having a lot of Olympic qualification regattas going on, December featuring regattas in both Africa and Asia. So how do we perform under pressure? Well, if it was like the Matrix and you was just able to offer somebody a pill, then probably would be a very rich man, because the problem with performing under pressure is, by definition, you don't have that many occasions, and that, I think, is often the reason that an older athlete may have the opportunity to perform better than a younger athlete, because they've just been under pressure more times. And that's why when you're young, to do these high pressure regattas like the Youth Worlds, etc., which will be coming up in Brazil, as much as possible, because like any habit, the more you perform under pressure, the easier it gets. And one of the little psychology tricks is to tell yourself, rather than being nervous, and this is the same in many fields. Imagine you're an actor or an actress, this idea, not being nervous, but you're excited to do something, you're excited to race, you're excited to perform. So that's a really useful switch. And it is something that the larger M&As, they have the advantage because their sailors often get to do many, many more competitions. It's also a very good reason for hosting regattas in your home country because that obviously gives your sailors a little bit of an advantage, especially if they know the venue. But the psychological advantage is absolutely key. So we're getting towards what I'll call the off-season in the Northern Hemisphere. You see this is again filmed around midday. Not a lot of light, not a lot of wind though, so that makes it easier. So what do we do? Well, I'm working with the Road to Gold, and the idea of that is to have sort of a structured training and focus over the winter. We get together with Zoom meetings, and it's lovely to speak to lots of top sailors. Understandably, I mainly speak to the Orca sailors, and I think it's something that's tied in and worked incredibly well with the Emerging Nations programme, where sailors perhaps don't have that budget to travel all around the world, but they can really make sure they make the most of every opportunities they have at home. So yeah, if you want to be successful, there's definitely never a quiet time. In fact, I always seem to be running around these days. But hopefully, and I'll join you all on the show, and really interested in the comments and what else you'd like to hear about. But this idea of performing under pressure, that's a really important one.
John Emmett's regular segment for our show. Get to the front of the fleet, John Emmett sailing. That's I couldn't do the show if I didn't get excited about doing it. I mean, I don't know about you. Do you get excited?
Sure.
You get nervous?
No.
I don't either. I don't get nervous. I'm not sure I ever did, but I sure get excited, and it's because of all these people who are our friends.
Yes, absolutely.
From afar, and we appreciate. Go ahead.
No, I mean, it's one of the best things about the show for me is our FOSI.
Our FOSI.
Yeah.
Quick note here about what's going on in the Canaries for SSL, the SSL Gold Cup. They've had a couple days of racing now. They're into the quarters, what they call the quarterfinals, which are actually the round of, I might call it the round of 16 because there are 16 teams, as you can plainly see there. And they had racing yesterday and today. They hadn't quite gotten all the results out, and I didn't have time to go dig them out myself. But you can see here, Great Britain, Denmark, Malaysia, France are in this first group, 2 of which will go forward after 4 races. Germany, Netherlands, China, and Hungary in this, Chile, not China, they got eliminated. And of course, our FOSI, Lily Zhu, was the captain of the Chinese team when they were back here somewhere. In the group 3, Brazil, Portugal, New Zealand, and Australia. Be interesting to see. And I think the early going, I think Brazil was doing actually quite well in that group. Switzerland, Lithuania, Italy, and Spain in the 4th group. So 2 from each of those 4 groups go forward. And then this coming, what is it, the 3rd and the 4th? I go back a slide. On the 2nd and 3rd, the 2nd and 3rd of December are what they call the half finals or the semifinals, which is the round of 8, because you've got 4 teams into the finals. I guess that sort of makes sense calling it that. I don't know. They'll figure that out. It's their first year.
It's all right. I mean, it's understandable.
I think it is too. And I just probably overly complexify things because it's cool. I'm glad to see that they're doing what they are doing. Bravo, John Emmett. Gordon Smith loves his reports, as do we all. Excited and nervous sounds like my wedding night, Jonathan Frank. I would have thought Stingray would have said that, except I'm not sure if he's married or not. Stingray, we're going to get Stingray on here one of these days. I talked to him the other day, Julius, because he likes to hide behind it. He's high profile social media, retired Boeing engineer. Everybody knows that. I know his name. I've been to his home. I've met his partner. But it would be nice to get him on. And he said, no. And I said, well, how about if we get you on and we do like somebody that's in this witness protection program, we make it really, you can't see him, you just see his outline and there's a bright light back to us.
Yeah.
And we run his voice through a garbler. And,
Oh,
huh?
I as much as I'd love to do it, I think that's little.
I think that would be fun.
No.
John has his best Errol Flynn swashbuckling stash, Philip Laffin says.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is just 3 weeks. 3 weeks to
Christmas?
no.
No.
The equinox.
Oh yeah.
The days grow short from something.
Yes, I'll be so
to
glad.
December, at least here in the northern hemisphere.
So glad when the days start getting longer.
It's
Oh,
although it's a nice day here.
It
Chilly, as we said at the
Yeah.
top. Okay, let's get to the cup and get to this Jeddah regatta that's happening this weekend. It's not 1 week to Jeddah. I didn't change that lower third today. It's on right now. They practice race on Wednesday. I don't think they practiced race today. They had some practice sailing. Ian Murray is there. He's got the robot marks and he's got his race committee boats, and they've been doing some practicing. But first, because so many of you don't even know who's in the cup. I get asked this all the time. First of all, most people don't care. If I go to St. Francis, we were over there last night for Monday Night Football. And if you go over there, people say, oh, when's this happening? Where's this happening? Is it back in New Zealand next year? I'm not kidding. That's what they think. That's what they say. They know there's some stuff going on in Barcelona, and they've probably heard something about Jeddah. But they don't even know who's in the bloody cup. So I thought we'd review that courtesy of AC37, who sent out this nice video.
6 teams are hoping to become the next holders of the legendary trophy. One already has the cup. That's Emirates Team New Zealand. With 11 campaigns and 4 wins since 1987, the Kiwis have become the team to beat.
The America's Cup is now New Zealand's Cup.
They're the defender, having won on home waters in 2021. Their mission now? An unprecedented three-peat. To do it, they'll have to fend off one of 5 possible syndicates. The challenger of record is Sir Ben Ainsley's Ineos Britannia. Sir Ben returns for a 3rd time on a quest to bring the cup back home, after it sailed away across the Atlantic in 1851. It's an almighty task, but neither Sir Ben nor his backer Sir Jim Ratcliffe are built to back down. Could this finally be the Brits' year? They're not the only team with an empty America's Cup trophy cabinet. The New York Yacht Club was its home for 132 years, but the cup hasn't been sighted since the 80s. They were back last time out, but things didn't go their way. So this time, American Magic team boss Terry Hutchinson has a point to prove. But no one needs to settle a score quite like the Italians, Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. They've been trying to win the cup since 2000.
Prada finished 48 seconds behind.
Until he does, team principal Patrizio Bertelli just won't quit. The Prada CEO returns for his 7th attempt. Is this finally his time? Against all odds, back in the year 2000, the Swiss won the cup in their first attempt, a feat matched only by the cup's original winner, America, in 1851. Billionaire backer Ernesto Bertarelli has a history of assembling elite sailing squads. This time, he's gone for youth. Alinghi are this cup's unknown quantity. Write them off at your peril. And from the newest to one of the oldest, a constant presence since 1970, the French are back. But it'll be an uphill battle for Orient Express Racing, last to enter and playing catch-up. It's an exciting squad of sailing talent that might just surprise. So the stage is set, and the journey to the 37th America's Cup begins.
Okay, I like the video.
Hmm?
There were a couple of factual errors. In fact, some of our FOSI have already picked them out. Did you hear that? Stingray says yes. Did they say 1871? Yes, I think they did. I listened to it a couple times. And that video said that the cup the Brits haven't seen the Cup since they lost it, since it went offshore in 1871. Obviously, they meant 1851. And Ed Worley picked out another, one or two erratas, as he would, the bright boy that he is. So it wasn't perfect, but I thought it was okay. Daniel Gruen Daniel Gruen pointing out what Ed Worley pointed out to me the other day, that it was 2003 when Alinghi won, not the 2000 America's Cup. And again, MacGyver gets it wrong. Yeah, they need to check these things, sadly. But in any event, I still thought it was a nice video, the Jeddah stuff notwithstanding. Okay, they got to promote Jeddah. So anything else about the teams, about what's going on? There was the comment here from, and then I'll get to Alistair's comment. And we're all worried about the time. If it's being aired on YouTube, I know that. Ed Worley, when sailors and yacht clubs do not care about the Cup, that is a problem. And I'm going to read this from John Hanfield. The AC has always had villains and tough times, from the egos of the New York Yacht Club in the early 80s to Ernesto going to the highest bid in 07 to Larry, the venue he means, to Larry going to Maxi Cats in 10, but Grant takes the cake for this Jeddah event. The Cup is on being green with hydrogen chase boats and the desire to go carbon neutral, and then they go have an event in the Kingdom, the world's oil supplier. If that wasn't enough to make you stop, but we will all know the hideous human rights issues. The Cup is tarnished because of Grant and his ridiculous vision. I hope that if AM wins, they bring some sanity back to the event. Daniel Gruen, please no name calling. Erase that comment. We don't need to call somebody. But in any event, that Daniel can, or Julia, maybe you can erase that comment. Now here is another video apropos of this event coming up. Remember, these are being raced not in the big boats, not in the bespoke boats, but in the one design boats. And here is a nice little video about those boats.
Welcome to the Emirates Team New Zealand base. Normally cameras aren't allowed inside these bases at all, but we thought today is a perfect opportunity to show everyone the AC40, the one design boat that's been raced for the Youth and Women's Cup, all the World Series events, and all the teams have got one of these as well. So this is the AC40 on the deck. Big traveller here at the back. We've got the whole control system sitting on the deck for the mainsail. The cockpit here, you've got 2 seats. And interestingly, on this boat, the drivers or the skippers or the helmsmen or whatever you want to call them sit in the front. Normally they'd be sitting right at the very back of the boat, but it's a pretty unique situation. Steering wheel's right in front of you and you've got an unobstructed view out the front of the boat. 2 stations for phones here. This side here is all about like the performance, how fast the boat's going, all your settings. And over here you'll have all the information about the race course. It'll tell you where you are on the race course, how long to the start, how long to the boundary. And I'm hoping we'll get to a point where they'll start displaying the other boat on there too, so you can really get a good idea of where you are, because you can't see through any of these sails, so you have no idea where your competition is. In terms of button and switches, we'll start on the outboard side first. So you've got a board up button and a board down button. The trim plus, trim minus buttons, that's all to do with the autopilot system. So you can set all the settings and the boat will sail itself in terms of its flight. In our test boat, we have the ability to use the autopilot and manually, and I can guarantee you 100%, the one design boat is significantly easier to sail. But having said that, we still have to put inputs into the boat. So we still have to decide what is the sink target, how much ride height do we have, what is the trim of the boat, and where do we put the cants. It might sound like it sails itself because it's got an autopilot, but there's still a lot of human inputs that need to happen to make the boat work. On the other side here is all to do with the foil. And if you ever push a wrong button, you can easily just hit the cancel button here and that just freezes the boat and you can redo your commands. So the final thing, and probably the most important thing to look at on this boat, is what we call the ultrasonic. It's what senses how the boat's flying. It's shooting a beam down at the water, and it's sensing how far the boat is off the water. And that's what makes the AC-40 fly. As you can probably see right now, this boat's getting packed up as we speak.
Don't worry about it.
So, hope you enjoyed the tour, and we'll see you in Villanova.
Okay, I like, well, that ended rather abruptly, but I like the video. And I don't like the boats, and I agree with the comments here. Let's see what other people are saying. I'm going to read John's long comment again. Well, first of all, Stingray says whoever's been practicing the push buttons. Remember, there's only 4 people in the boats, too.
No.
Only 4. So there's, halyards and sails, and no, that's not happening. John Hanfield saying, if you're doing a lead-up event, why aren't they in the actual AC boats? Yeah, or the old version of the new AC boats. Imagine if in 83 they used 6 meters for the first round. Good point. Another ridiculous thing that alienates the fans. True. The Cup has lost its way. SailGP is going to be number one, the number one game in town if they aren't already. Yeah, okay. Ed Worley saying, I prefer learning about halyards and sheets, not joysticks and autopilots.
Yes.
Right, Julia?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, human inputs, radical, Steve Kruger is saying. Daniel Gruen, so Tom, a big question. Why does ACE TV team let a commentator who mainly comments NZL rugby football match get in the sailing commentary booth? This is so wrong. Well, who knows? Jody Shields, my wife needs a cancel button. I press her wrong buttons all the time.
Oh, Jody.
These are the crews of sail, meaning that's like these Waymo and cruise cars that we, apropos Uber, these driverless Uber cars we have here. These are the crews of sailing. I hope there's an app that calls one to the nearest dock. Great boat tour. Thanks, Nathan. Oh, while I'm on Alistair Murray, I made a mistake and you didn't catch it.
Uh-oh.
It's not Equinox. That's in September.
Oh, yeah, I know.
September and
The
March, right?
Yeah.
Those are the equinoxes.
Yeah.
The vernal equinox,
Right.
or the March. They now call it, because of the so we don't get confused, the March equinox and the September equinox. What's it called in December? In June. Come on, you went to Stanford.
I just went
You're
blank.
supposed to
The
catch
solstice.
me. The solstices, right. So the winter solstice here, the summer solstice down under. Okay, I just wanted to clear that up since we had Alistair Murray clearing that up.
Yes.
Several of you caught it, but Alistair caught it first. What a crouton I am sometimes.
Me too.
Maybe most of the time.
No.
Julie, you're never a crouton. You're never a crouton. Ted Ryman says, great video, very cool tech. I like these boats. Gordon Smith saying, previous president of ISAF, Niels Earhart, used to have a day sailing boat that was entirely controlled by buttons. Niels Earhart was a dear friend, Danish guy, gentleman, guitar player. He was never president of ISAF, but he was on the council and head of the delegation for Denmark and really for the Low Countries. He was senior serious guy, dear friend. I'd stayed at his place in Skoshovel any number of times. Yeah, he had a later in life, when he was 80 something, he was still out there sailing around in his push button boat. Stingray saying it would be a lot more interesting if the teams were racing their LEQ 12s. Yeah, maybe. Ed Worley, it's a sad commentary on the pinnacle of sailing when the boat cannot be sailed without computers. Yeah. John Emmett saying there's plenty of room for both SailGP and the AC. I actually agree with John on this, and I think the America's Cup is always going to be the pinnacle, at least in my lifetime, Julia, probably in our lifetimes. I think the America's Cup has this history and tradition dating back to 1851
Yes.
that is not going to be surpassed
I
anytime soon.
I agree.
And you can talk about Michigan, Ohio State. One of the reasons that rivalry is so intense and so celebrated is because it dates back to the what, 90s?
It's one of the reasons I cry about the dissolution of the
Pac-12.
Pac-12, yeah.
Your league out here on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
John Hanfield, these are glorified RC boats. The March solstice. Thank you, Mark Michelson, our weather guru. We're going to have him come on here and explain to us the difference. Technical, formal, we all know, but only Mark can do it. Solstice for December and June. Thank you, solstice. Solstice, sorry, was answering 2 Qs. Sail GP is 10 times worth watching compared to the current AC, Daniel Gruen says. The skills involved sailing these vessels is no longer apparent. That's a really good point, Graham Sweeney. It won't be long where nobody will care if these vessels are crewed, and he doesn't mean C-R-U-D-E.
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
He doesn't mean crude. He means C-R-E-W-E-D.
Right.
And Clark Chapin, the license plate on he has a car, a Chevy Equinox, and his license plate is VERNL, and it's in his garage. Hello, Don Lunabos up in Sonoma. AC is king. I think Don's right. I think it will be the king. The king is dead. Long live the king. I think the AC will always be the king, at least again in our lifetime. Stingray, back and forth. Mark Michael has an interesting comment here. One of the things that makes NASCAR, the stock car racing here in this country, or really almost any car racing popular, is that the common person can somehow, somewhat relate to it. Get in your own vehicle and head out on an empty highway, and you get the thrill of the speed.
Mm-hmm.
The AC Cup is unrelatable now to 99% of sailors, as most have never been foiling, Mark Michelson says. It is such a different kind of sailing. Okay, maybe the ice boat guys will get it. I don't even think so much it's the foiling, Mark, although I think that's a big part of it. It's that it isn't sails going up and down. It isn't grinding like we have seen for so long. It isn't traditional sailing that 90% of the sailing world does. And John Emmett will argue, well, we're all quickly, and Andrew Pindar perhaps will argue, well, we're all quickly going toward foiling. And that's the future of the world. But, you know, the difference between the Yacht America in the technology and the schooners at the turn of the century and the big boats at the turn, you know, like Reliance, and the J boats and the 12s and the IACC boats, there was really very little apparent difference to the people watching it and to sailors who knew and loved our tradition of our sport. I think that is a big point, a big problem, Mark Michelson, as many others of you have pointed out. Pedro, foiling sailor. I'm at a nanotech conference at Sydney University today, and we will be discussing how to recycle old, redundant carbon boats. John Sengmeister makes this point, is, you know, we all talk about this virtue signaling of how green the sport is trying to become or is becoming, and then these boats are carbon and the sails are carbon and everybody's flying around and being flown around and yada, yada.
Yeah.
John Emmett says foiling is the future and the percentage take-up will only increase in years to come. Yeah, okay, maybe, probably. But again, go ahead.
No, I was wrong. I was
But again, I don't think so much, Julie, I don't think it's that it's foiling. I think it's that the boats are going so fast, first of all, that you don't have upwind sails and downwind sails, and you don't. You know,
I was thinking the camaraderie, which is
of the crew.
Of the crew.
Good point. No, I think we're used to sailing big boats with, you know,
or even little boats, but with other people.
Yeah. What we are spoiled with all types of boats and sailing events to enjoy. AC has moved on. If one doesn't like it, go and find a class you do like. Yeah, okay, Gordon Smith, that's fair enough. But I still would like to like the AC, as I think most everybody on here would. And I know my beloved mother thinks that, you know, that everybody should look like Ted Turner in an engineer's cap and a rugby shirt and short, tight white shorts. And you probably think the same thing, Julia.
Yes.
Ed Worley, the current AC is stripping the art of sailing out of the racing and replacing it with computers and making sailors just another component. Mark, following up, you get my point almost exactly. The sailing and current boats are doing is not similar in speed, pitch, yaw, or any other feel you get when you take out your Catalina 42 or your Etchells 22 or even a Hobie Cat.
Mm-hmm.
Graham Sweeney, fly-by-wire isn't sailing. Wow, I didn't know we'd get into all this. I thought we were going to talk about Jeddah as a venue. Super pressurize the carbon and heat them up to turn them into diamonds. Rick
What a
Vanderhoff.
good idea.
Huh?
That's a good idea.
Diamonds are forever, forever, forever.
Yes.
Are they a lady's best friend?
I don't know.
Where's your big diamond ring?
That's one of them.
You got diamonds all over the place. Jonathan Frank, the same thing was said when Indy cars ditched the Offie and switched to rear engine racers. Yeah, but they're still doing the same thing. F1 cars still look like cars. They're still acting like cars. And when you walk like a duck and quack like a duck, you're a duck. And that's what the problem is. These boats are not walking and quacking like sailboats that we all came to know and love. Clark Chapin and David James, a related problem is that with wings and foils, the density of, quote, boats stored per square meter of dockage space is very low. You need money. Yeah, okay, that's for clubs, but I'm not going to worry about that as an issue for the Cup. Gordon Smith, I do like the AC developments. Yeah, okay, I wish we could see them, and I wish the sailors, none of you have said this, but I know you're all thinking it, I wish the sailors were, as my mother would like to say, you're in sailing clothes, not looking like robo-cops in Kevlar and helmets and masks. And foiling is cool, but the majority of sailing will not be foiling, Ed. I think Ed's right. I think there will be high-end foiling and not much more than that. If foiling is the future, then sailing as we know it will not exist for all of the reasons noted above. Good point, Bill Wingrove. Andrew McIrvin. Let's see what Andrew has to say. Good as the World Sailing Sustainability presentation conveniently ignored boats, rigs, and sails. Yeah, and I think Andrew's spot on. We're all saying that it's a little virtue signal, a lot of virtue signaling.
Mm-hmm.
The crew stand in dugouts wearing helmets and talking over an intercom. Bring back captains that yell at the crew and know how to use a whip. Fog machine. Yeah. Who is Fog Machine?
I don't know. Wish we knew.
Find out. Andrew Pindar. Interesting to read the comparison with NASCAR and F1. Race cars loaded with computers and covered in wings foils. Yeah, but again, Andrew, I think the point that at least I was making a minute ago, the cars, having done Formula One for 6+ years, 7 years, they still look like cars. They still drive like cars. They have done a lot in F1 to stop control by, the humans got to still run the car. Yeah, they got computers. Stingray, come on, Tom. I think you were a heavy promoter of the S&S wing sailed cat. Well, the wing sail's a different, that's technology. That boat still looks like a sailboat. It acted like a sailboat. It was a wing, and that was, to me, Stingray, the wing sails are more by way of Kevlar and carbon fiber and that kind of technology as opposed to Egyptian cotton. Okay, gosh, look at all the comments. How's your mom, Tom? My mom's not well, Jonathan. Thank you for asking. I hope she's able to watch the show, but she's not been doing really great, and we all
send her
our love and check in with her after the shows, but not doing great. Mark Michelson says the 88 deed of gift was just a tornado with a V12 engine. Okay, Ed, I'm going to read Ed Worley's comment, the last one. The marketing of the current AC and Sail GP is to mimic car racing with cool gear, goggles, helmets, and racing clothes like F1 and NASCAR. David James, you got the final word. If you wanted to take your wing sail out for a beer can race, how would you go about it? Yeah, it'd be tough. That's a good point. And that's, again, I think the most important thing is the relatability to whatever we're doing in the America's Cup, and even Sail GP for that matter, to what most sailors do around their clubs and around their docks. And that's the problem. Okay,
I think Pindar is right again. Worth a visit to Garda. Plenty of displacement boats, plenty of planing boats, and now
planing boats. I think
planing boats, yeah, and now plenty of foiling boats. Grow the pie. This isn't a zero-sum game.
Well, I hope you're right, Andrew. I hope you're right. The problem is, right now, the sport is going south for whatever reason. We know there's demographic issues, there's cost issues, there's problems for, just kids trying to get a foot in life and have a family and a car and a house, and before they have the money to go spend, the discretionary income to go spend on a boat, on a yacht. Alistair Murray agrees with Pindar. I hope this is not a zero-sum game. I hope foiling is bringing in more people. And when we see the evidence of that happening, great. But so far, we don't see the evidence of that happening, do we, Julia? Gordon Smith agrees with Pindar.
Andrew.
So I hope I agree if it's true. I just don't know if it's true. I hope it is. Andrew Dolly DeVola?
Yeah. If you're powered by wind, it's sailing.
Yeah, fair enough. I think we're all over that. I think Andrew Dolly DeVola is right. And let's get on to what I thought was going to be the controversial segment. We're an hour and a half into the show today. New York Yacht Club has announced their crew, and they are sailing. They have confirmed a 5-strong sailing squad set to compete in the upcoming America's Cup Preliminary Regatta. This was a statement they released yesterday, I think, either yesterday or this morning, taking place from November 30th to December 2nd. The squad comprises Olympic gold medalists Tom Slingsby. So there's the answer to one of the questions. He will be racing. He's not going to sail the following weekend in Sail GP because he's going to be on maternity leave. His fairly new wife of this year, didn't they get married earlier this year, is giving birth. So the squad comprises Olympic gold medalist Tom Slingsby and Paul Goodison. So Goody is there, I think is the co-helms. Lucas Calabrese, U.S. Olympian Riley Gibbs, and Etchell World Champion Michael Menninger. So those are the 4 of whom will be sailing at any one time on the yacht, on the AC40. So what about New York in general? When they said we're not going, and well, they have taken a decision. They've been under pressure, as you all know, but apparently it was a team decision. This was the statement that I've been given by Stu Struley, who is the super good PR for New York Yacht Club. Quote, whether to participate in the HC40 event in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, is and was a team decision. The club stands 100% behind its decision. That is the team's decision. And our membership is excited to cheer on the team this weekend as it aims for a second straight win, unquote. Graphics department didn't get that quote in there. New York Yacht Club Commodore Dr. Paul Zabatakis, who we've had on this show, and I respect very much Paul, Dr. Z, and his statement. I, like a lot of you, have great fear and trepidations about this regatta, even now. I'm sure they've got security second to none. I'm sure the Saudis have got this, I hope, I'm not sure. I hope the Saudis have this under control. I think there's some very good private security, both for the event, for ACE, and also for the New York Yacht Club team. We'll see how New York Yacht Club participates, whether they sail in the practice race, whether they start and then don't sail around the track. We'll see how they do in the rest of the series, but you have to take Dr. Z, Paul Commodore Zabatakis, at his word that they're going there to participate, and he hopes they win. Now, maybe that's a bit of smoke, knowing that the team might not compete that hard, Julia. But remember, the team did win the first preliminary regatta.
Yes.
There in Spain earlier this fall. Yes. Now, as a venue, I didn't have time to throw in a lot of stuff and pictures of this guy, Jamal, the late great, I don't know how great he was, Jamal Khashoggi, who's the journalist who was not only murdered, but butchered.
Yes.
And interestingly, it's 4 years ago this month. Yeah, I think it's 4 or 5 years ago, but it was this month that the CIA, Julia, determined that the head, the crown prince, who's running the country, in fact ordered the killing and dismemberment of that Saudi journalist who was writing for the Washington Post. His name was Jamal Khashoggi.
Yeah.
He was related to Adnan Khashoggi, who was the famous arms dealer back in the Iran-Contra Reagan Khashoggi. There's only one big Khashoggi family in Saudi Arabia. And related to some other famously, famous or infamous Khashoggis in Saudi Arabia. He also was somehow connected with Osama bin Laden. From what I read, when this happened 5 years ago, 2018, wasn't it? Yeah, so it was 2018. It may have taken the CIA some time after that, but it was in October when this happened. And they had lured him to the Saudi embassy in Turkey. He was trying to get his marriage in Saudi Arabia annulled so he could marry his Turkish squeeze, his girlfriend, his girlfriend. And they said, well, you go to the Saudi embassy in Turkey, you'll be safe and you can get your paperwork there. He was there. I'm not going to show the videos. I had reports and it's too gruesome. And he was lured into the embassy by all reports. And according to what our CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, and this guy, I don't know if you can believe the CIA these days anyway, can you? He was lured in there and he never came out. And ultimately the CIA a month later, about this time, it happened in October and this time November of 5 years ago, 2018, said they heard saws, they heard, and he was,
Enough.
Well, several of you have also made the point in the various sports washing, and I'm not going to put her picture in here and talk, but there was a lady, a chess player, and they've done this with F1, soccer, tennis, golf, and sailing, among others. And even there's a big chess world championship going on, and a lady said, I am not, and she could make more in this tournament. There's a couple, 3 different kinds of chess tournaments, the traditional, and there's the speed chess or whatever else. She said, I could have made more money in, a week in Saudi Arabia than I'd probably make in my lifetime, or at least in several years of traditional tournaments. But I am not going because the conditions they had put on her, she can't leave the hotel without an escort. She has to wear whatever it is the ladies in Saudi Arabia have to wear. She said, I'm not going. But others of you will argue, Andrew Pindar, among others, will make the argument that, look, this is good for the sport. It's good to broaden the sport into the Middle East. It is going to popularize the sport. It's going to help modernize, is the word people keep using, the Saudis and bring Saudi Arabia into the modern world with respect to human rights, with respect to democracy, and other things that we here in the West and most of the countries from which the Fosi are watching all hold dear. I don't think for a moment that a silly yacht race or a tennis match or a golf match or a Formula One race is going to change the dictatorship, the bloody dictatorship that the Saudis continue to impose on their citizens. And I don't think that's going to change in my lifetime, Julia, in your lifetime. And that, to me, is what is so repugnant about Saudi society, is the brutal dictatorship. There's another, what is the something watch, the big international agency that watches out for supposed bad behavior by governments with respect to, somebody help me out. Something watch. Come on, they deal with people who've been held captive and Human Rights Watch. No, David, it's something else. It's close, but no cigar. Something else watch. Amnesty International. Maybe that was it, Mark Reed, Amnesty International. But they've just come out, not judicial. I think I was wrong saying watch. I think Mark Reed's right with Amnesty International. The point is, they are Amnesty International or Human Rights Watch. These groups are always watching what's going on in Saudi Arabia and some of these other countries.
Mm-hmm.
And just of late, there was a report, I'm not going to repeat it and throw it into the show, of another horrific, what to us in the West would appear to be a horrific human rights issue and trial without a proper jury and so on and so forth. It's a kingdom. Yeah, okay, the United Kingdom is a kingdom, but it's a democracy, and you've had parliamentary democracy since arguably the 1200s. So nation building, are we going to convince the Saudis and the Saudi royal family to give up their power and convert that country to a democracy?
I think it's part of drips that come in. I was involved with the first Soviet-U.S. track meet that happened within about 6 weeks and watched what happened during that time.
Yes.
And it was amazing. Can you really do this? Oh, look at that. Can we go over here? No.
Because they came to the U.S.
Yeah.
Well, the movie started that when they saw, and of course, the Soviets like the Golden Cadillac and some of these movies that portray capitalism here in the U.S. is horrible. Andrew Pindar says, such tosh. I think he's talking about what I'm saying and others' comments on here. So much misinformation being peddled here. Well, with respect, Andrew, you have to say you're doing business in the Middle East, and I respect that you are, and I'm glad that you are. But I don't think there is so much tosh here. It's my opinion, and I welcome any other opinions. It's like Tom Fishbeck saying, how did the 1936 Olympics work out? And Julie, with respect to what the Soviet Union hasn't changed. Despite Reagan, Thatcher, the whole, the Pope, Chancellor Kohl, it's still the Soviet Union. They still have a dictator. Those people are still being oppressed. Are we going to change that by having a silly yacht race in some place?
It's drips of water.
Or the Olympics?
Drips of water.
Drips of water. Okay. In the meantime, are we glorifying what's going on in Saudi Arabia? We didn't do drips of water with apartheid in South Africa. We cut that country off. We kicked them out of the Olympics. We said, this is not correct. We're not letting you into modern society, the Olympics. You can't send junior teams to the youth worlds. If our countries won't even send sailors. We had countries, what was that agreement that the Commonwealth had? I was chairing the jury at a youth worlds, and the Australian team showed up and the South African team showed up. And these are all sailors that have been sailing, then lasers and 420s or whatever, they all knew each other. And the Australians had to leave. This was back in Portugal in sometime in the 80s, was it? So it's a hard question. I don't know the answer. But then on top of all that, Julie, we got a war there.
Yes. That's another problem.
This is not going on over, again, in the Persian Gulf, or in the Persian Gulf. This is in the Red Sea.
Yeah.
And we know that the Houthi rebels are shooting at ships owned by Israelis and by Israeli companies and American companies and God knows what else.
Mm-hmm. And there are websites warning against the start of World War III.
Well, and you and I worry about that let's don't get into that here, but still, it just is a bad look and feel for a sport which heretofore has never been run. It's never been run, an America's Cup or an America's Cup Preliminary Regatta, to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, has never been run in a dictatorship, in a country run by dictators. And to me, it's anathema. To me, it's a shame. It is debasing our sport and debasing the America's Cup. Now, I welcome your comments. We wanted to debate this, and please have at it. Jonathan Frank, absolutely correct, Tom. We are looking at this with our Western mindset, which is not even considered in their culture and mindset.
Yeah, that's true.
I quoted Fishbeck's comment here a minute ago, 1936 Olympics. How did that work out? Jeff Kitson, quote, people sail for fun and no one has yet convinced me that it's more to, okay, they're back and forth on fun, fast and slow. Jonathan Frank replying to Jonathan, let alone their religion. I don't want to get into the religion. I think we all respect people's rights to celebrate their religions, and some of these religions are less palatable perhaps than others. But
Clark asks an interesting question. What's the difference between nation building and sports washing?
Well, I agree with Clark. I don't think we should, as a country, be in nation building. And look how well that went in Afghanistan for 20 years. And that didn't go well at all. Soviet Union, Clark says, he's disagreeing with us. He's saying Soviet Union has changed, but not for the better. Oh, okay. Now it's Russia and their buddies from Belarus, but the press individual freedoms are even more suppressed. Yuck. Okay, I guess he is agreeing with us. Sweeney is replying to Wingrove. At some point, you have to move forward with a country and hope they come along with you for the ride to a better world. Yeah. Okay, maybe. Ed Worley, I hope the sailing in the kingdom will be peaceful. And we all think, look, we all want this regatta to be a success.
Yes.
I don't want this. In fact, this regatta is more likely not to be successful because of what they had there today, which was no wind. And the sea breeze, the breeze, if you read Magnus the Magnificent's puff piece, puff piece is putting it politely. Did you read that piece?
Yeah.
That he wrote about what a wonderful, pristine, organized, efficient place this is.
Oh, it is beautiful.
Why don't you go live there, Magnus, if you think it's so wonderful? And Magnus, Scuttlebutt made fun of Magnus's piece, saying that Magnus is, likes to read his own words. But we like his prose, don't we?
I do.
And I like his writing. I enjoyed the piece. But if he's being paid by ACE to whitewash this event and what's gone on and is still going on in Saudi Arabia. I know it's a hard question. That's why we put it to all of you. But that piece was something else of Magnus. Magnus, I still love you. I don't know.
I do too.
Sending more potential hostages into the region. I hope not, Fritz Mueller. I don't think so. I think the Saudis and the security. And again, Julia, I hope this regatta at the Jeddah Yacht Club is safe and successful
and beautiful.
And beautiful. And there's some wind. That's what I'm more worried about. Magnus talked about how the breeze comes out of the north, and then they get a little bit of westerly sea breeze, hopefully, later in the day. I hope. I would have no pleasure or schadenfreude otherwise if this thing turns into some kind of a disaster. Stingray, another big problem with the South African rugby team, the Springboks, and of course, Stingray grew up in South Africa, is that nobody could beat them. And thank goodness the current Rugby World Cup champion team is captained by Kohesi. Who's Kohesi? Sorry, I don't know. Gordon Smith, I would prefer a better informed presentation. Why should Saudis adopt so many poor habits of Western society? I agree. I agree, Gordon. But Gordon, you certainly don't support a royal family dictatorship, do you? Going forward, big picture, long term, dictating the mores, the morals, the rights and not rights to a society? Come on, I can't believe it.
Benevolent dictator.
Andrew McIrvin points out you still have capital punishment in the USA. And I agree, there's some people that find that abhorrent. And I'm not defending the USA, and I'm certainly not saying we're perfect, but we're far more perfect, as are all of your countries in which you're watching. I believe most of you. We are far more better off, perfect, than most of the dictatorships in the world, especially the Saudis. I agree with you, Tom, but it is an independent nation. We as a nation cannot dictate to another country how they should behave. Agree, Julie. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Maybe we should not do business with them. Totally agree. That's my whole point. Don't send a regatta for our pinnacle event in the sport to a country like Saudi Arabia. What would you all say if you decided, because that Yahoo in North Korea decided he had a bunch of money to spend to bring an America's Cup regatta to Pyongyang? Is that how you pronounce that? To North Korea. You all would be, you'd be having a conniption, as my grandmother would have said. I think Julie Ahrens is right. We shouldn't tell the Saudis how to run their country. I'm not trying to tell them how to run the country. What I love most about Fozy Magnus is how he almost never uses too many superlatives.
This is really nice.
Well, if the shyster hits the fans, Graham Sweeney is saying they will never hold another event. Yeah, and that's sad too, because, you know, I've been to regattas over on the other side, to Dubai. I've been to F1 in Bahrain. And those countries are westernizing. They are quite a bit more liberal. They're not quite democracies, but they're making significantly faster and better progress. And don't forget, everybody, it was only 22 years ago that the Saudis, basically the Saudis, and whether they were aided and abetted by the government or not, it was Saudis who did 9/11 here in the U.S., and I'm still not amused by that.
No.
Only 22 years ago, Julia.
Yes.
So if I'm a little wound up about it, and if New York Yacht Club is a little concerned about it, I can understand. Yeah, there's Philip laughing. Good point, Philip. And I will find out what's really going on behind the scenes at New York, but I respect their decision. And let's see how this plays out, because I'm not sure it's going to play out as a normal regatta for New York Yacht Club. And here is Mark Michelson, our weather guru. See his comment.
Oh, that's too bad.
The weather forecast for the A Cup in Saudi is dismal. Well, no surprise, guys. No, and again, you go run it in a country that I won't bring all that up again, Julia, but then you go run it in a country, in a venue that is notoriously hot and light. Excuse me. I mean, at least in Dubai, there's some wind. At the Dubai International Marine Club, you know, they have a pretty good sea breeze over there.
Right.
Okay, Mark Michelson, Wednesday, 4 to 8, Thursday, variable, UGG. Well, look what happened today in the practice sailing they tried to do today. All of these issues around the current AC is the result of ETNZ seeking dollars from the highest bidder, Ed Worley saying. Andrew McIrvin, Magnus is an amusing tart, but still a tart, and has lost credibility for the future. Yeah, you know, he's chasing the money too. I don't blame anybody who needs to make money. He's not that he's poor, but wants to go out and write and is getting paid to write. And as Stingray said, I was paid to, not shill, that's the wrong word, but to explain the position of Larry Ellison and latterly Russell Coutts. And before that, the St. Francis Yacht Club, and before that, the San Diego Yacht Club, and before that, the New York Yacht Club.
Right.
But I always believed in what we were doing, and I always believed what I was saying. I never spun. I never lied. I may have spun, you know, called some things dark gray when they were maybe medium shade of gray for the sake of my bosses. But when the rubber hit the road, don't forget who quit on principle when the Golden Gate Yacht Club let the Cup, and I was the vice commodore of the Golden Gate Yacht Club, let the Cup leave the U.S. because Bermuda had bid $70 million as an event fee, and Larry let Russell move it to Bermuda. And that was not correct, any more than letting the Cup leave. That's the following the money thing several of you talked about. The Cup leaving New Zealand in the first place is a travesty. And that is at the root of all this evil, if I may say. Okay. Friday might be better, 8 to 11 knots. Mark Michelson. Interestingly, the overnight breezes are sometimes, the sea breeze comes up in the evening. Yeah. You cannot ban them from a regatta when at the same time you're selling them weapons. Graham Sweeney.
Yes.
Clark Chapin, the Western democracies and others elsewhere are far from perfect, but they all have active and functioning, if threatened, mechanisms for self-correction. They are not absolute monarchies. Bravo, Zulu Clark. You made my point better than I'm afraid I did. Julie Aarons, the war has nothing to do with the Saudis. They are certainly not pro-Israel, but they are not part of the solution. They are not part of the solution, but at present they are not part of the problem. Yeah, as far as the war is concerned, but Julie, that doesn't, you're still in a very difficult territory, and why even risk it? Stingray, Dalton gets praise for some other imagined traits, but his big focus is on the cash till. That all came out during proceedings in Auckland last cycle. He is the one pressing buttons. Good point. Light winds means displacement mode, Steve Gruber. Always a smart comment from Steve. No foiling. Does that make everyone happy? Sailing the AC in displacement boats, Julia.
That's probably true.
Huh? Maybe we should celebrate Saudi for bringing displacement back to the cup. How awful it is when those boats are displacing some are, some aren't. Remember, the only reason this is happening is to make dollars for Dalton and New Zealand, Andrew McIrvin says. Yes, Andrew. Bingo. Well, sad. Well said. Well, it's sad time. Okay, Joe Holtzman, thank you. We've beaten that to death.
Oh, yes.
Have we, Julia?
Yes.
Again, I hope this is a terrific event. I hope there is wind. I hope this happens. I hope we never, ever run a regatta, America's Cup, Sail GP, or otherwise, in a brutal dictatorship like Saudi Arabia. And may God strike me down.
Stop it.
It seems that pressing buttons is the problem all around. Okay. Enough!
Yes.
Correct or croutonic, the Jeddah AC Regatta review, and that's the latest. I'm sorry I don't have the schedule. I'm sure
the facility is fabulous, it looks like.
Well, they put some tents up on the hard stand, and they've got all the money in the world, and it's right there on the Formula One track, on the Corniche, and, you know. Julia, you're so positive. You're so good. You're
Sorry.
so good. Good for you. Good for you. Bravo, Julia. Bravo, Zulu. I was so croutonic in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot trying to get this show together. I don't even have a Whiskey Tango Foxtrot for you today, except the one we ran at the end of the show the other day. And nobody is perfect, least of all me. But if you can sail, and if you live in a country that's a democracy, you're pretty close.
Yeah.
Right, Julia?
Yes, dear.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
That gets us to the finish line. We're less than 2 hours into this show, and we appreciate all of you tuning in. Julia, you're a witness.
Yes. Please like, follow, and share.
Yes, indeed. And we will be reading your comments, particularly since this is such a, what's the word I want? Contentious topic here at the end of this show, and we will read your comments. Your comments are welcome, even in replay. Just please remember, no personal attacks, no name calling, and no coarse language. And that all the Fozy know that. We have a bloody terrific group of people on here.
Yes.
I appreciate them very much. Appreciate your support via patreon.com/join/sailing illustrated. Please help us out. And we thank all of you who helped make this show possible. Julia,
yes.
Final thoughts.
I reminded myself that sometimes the screen says subscribe and instead of follow, and subscribe means the same thing as follow.
Yeah, you always say that. Thank you. And that of course is subscribe is what YouTube calls it. You can subscribe to the channel.
Yeah.
And you can join the Facebook page. It all means it's not like paying money to subscribe.
But sometimes it does.
Well, that's if you're subscribing to a magazine.
No, to online things too.
But yeah, well, true, but not to YouTube, not to our show. Yeah, Jonathan Frank, the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot for today is that there is no Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Well, I didn't pull any jokes out. I didn't feel like I was in a very joking mood after all that. Stingray, did I miss a comment today about Egyptians bat? Oh, wait, there was one. Yeah. And again, the sad news that Betsy Barrett's husband has passed away, and we had that in the A block at the top of the show. Other comments. Thank you, Tom, Julia, for Janet. Yeah, and again, my beloved mother is not 100% by any means, and we hope.
We just send our love.
We just send our love. Graham Sweeney, in my day, you would get ripped sailing with arms like legs. Now the cool look will be heard on the dock. Wow, look at that guy with the ripped thumbs. Ooh. I agree, Ed Worley. Let's leave the politics and the politicians on the dock and go sailing. But you can't, that's part of what we talk about. It's part of our sport. We have to deal with it, I think. Coming Friday. We hope you all join us on Friday. Hope you have a great rest of your week. And until then, go sailing. Follow this thing in Jeddah. God forbid there's any problems there. Hopefully they have some wind. And see you Friday. Sail fast, sail safe, have fun. Ciao for now.